Immigration attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Put your questions in the comments so that I can answer your questions. I have a good topic for you today. So, you have applied for your green card with your spouse, but you've been hearing about the relief through VAWA because your spouse is not treating you well and you really would like to get out of the situation, but you're not seeing a way out. Is it too late to for VAWA? Hey, hi there, greetings in Puerto Rico. Um, so the answer is it's never too late to apply for VAWA. Unless, I mean, there are certain situations where I would say there is a deadline, but as long as you are in a situation where you are experiencing mistreatment by a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, spouse, parent, or adult citizen child, you can apply for VAWA even if you're currently going through the green card process with that relative already. Now, where there are deadlines to apply for VAWA is where you've already finalized your divorce. You have up to 2 years to apply for this. If your relative has lost status through deportation, or if they've passed away, then you will have 2 years, up to 2 years to apply for this. So you have to keep those deadlines in mind. Now, if you are being mistreated by a parent and you're under the age of 25, then you may qualify for this if you can show that you experienced this mistreatment when you were under the age of 21. Then you can apply for VAWA still. But once you get to 25, then at that point, you lose your eligibility. So those are the limited situations where there is a deadline to apply for VAWA. You need to make sure you're on top of it if this applies to you. So, especially where you're divorced or your relative has lost their immigration status through deportation, or um, you are a child of a citizen or resident and you're under the age of 25 and you are mistreated when you were young, under the age of 21, then this is where you need to get in touch with us. Let's talk about it and let's get started on your case. But now let's say you're in the middle of the process with your spouse, especially I've seen these situations with the spouse. Can you make that switch? And the answer is yes. Now, when you're making the switch, you're going to be switching to the VAWA process. So it means you will be on the timeline of VAWA, which the VAWA, it takes up to 3 years. But what I often see is even though it takes up to 3 years to get your green card from filing to green card, keep in mind in the middle of that process, so at around 9 month to 1 year mark, you'll get your work permit, you'll get your travel document that allows you to get relief. Then at around the 2.5 year mark, you will get approval for your VAWA. All being well, you'll get approval for the VAWA. And that gives you a special status through deferred action that gives you another work permit and the ability to stay here while you wait for the green card process to be completed. Now, where I see this is really beneficial is where you're with a spouse that you just know you're not getting that green card, right? Because some people, when I'm talking about the pros and cons of VAWA versus making the switch to VAWA, they will often think about whether it is worth it to just stick it out with their spouse, um, even though they're being mistreated. Because if they stick it out with that spouse, maybe just stick it out for another 6 months, they will get to the green card. And this is usually based on my experience, based on my observations, based on observing multiple situations like this. I can provide the client with a little bit of wisdom here. And that is if your spouse is mistreating you like this, they're probably not going to make you get that green card. And if you get the green card by them, they're never going to let you forget that. You're probably never going to be able to easily get out of the grasp of this spouse. You're always going to be under the control of this spouse because now they are holding your process over your head. Worse, you get the 2-year green card and not the 10-year green card. And so you have to then think about when it's time to go from the 2-year green card to the 10-year green card, you have to do it all over again. And you have to do it all over again with a spouse that you don't trust. And the same, by the way, applies to a parent and to an adult child. If they are treating you in such a terrible manner that they are enjoying the fact that you're vulnerable, they are going to see to it that you don't get that green card because they want to continue to enjoy their control over you. And this type of motive that they have to use your immigration status to control you is exactly what qualifies you for VAWA. It's the fact they're trying to use your immigration status to control you, to get you to do their bidding. And what a better way to do that than to say, to basically be the puppeteer of your green card process. So in a situation where it's like, wait longer and have control over my own destiny, or stick it out with this spouse and then go through all of that and not see the green card, or go through a terrible process because now they're sabotaging your process. So they're making it more complex. They're causing complications in your process. I would definitely say you should empower yourself to have more control. Even though it's a longer road, it's a road that you control, that you will be able to succeed at the end of the day. All right. So, this is it. It's just if applying for VAWA, can you apply for VAWA after applying for the green card through your spouse? And the answer is yes, you can. And there is a process that we go by to switch you from that process to the new process that will be under your control. And when we make the switch, we make sure that it's confidential, and immigration makes sure it's confidential. This is not just some nice thing they do for applicants. Immigration is required under the law to make sure they maintain your confidentiality. So they can't go calling the spouse that's mistreating you, or the relative that's mistreating you, and telling them, hey, did you know that so and so applied for VAWA? What do you have to say about that? It's completely prohibited under the law for them to do that. Another thing to consider here is that whenever you put immigration that on notice that you are the victim here, it empowers you and it protects your interests, because the spouse can easily go to immigration and they can report anything, or they can go to the police and they can report you to the police for anything. And when you are confronted with these situations and you don't have any record of talking to immigration in the first place about the abuse that you're experiencing, it means that they're likely going to look at the person that reported it first, right? And that now it's on the record. Now you are on the defense, you're not on the offense, to be able to protect yourself. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go through questions. So put your questions in the comments so I can answer your questions. Hey, I applied for VAWA on January 24th, 2023. I got the receipt from USCIS, but it's been almost 8 months, no prima facie yet. Did they deny it? So usually if they don't issue a prima facie, they're going to send you a request for evidence. So it's going to be one or the other, but they don't usually just deny it first. They send a request for evidence to give you an opportunity to meet the requirements, unless it's blatantly clear to immigration that you don't qualify, but they usually will send you a request for evidence. I got approved my EAD and travel document 2 days back. What happened next about my green card process? So it's gonna either be you get the green card or you have to go to the interview. And it's nice to see you. All right. Can a man who got his green card through VAWA file for his new spouse? So yes, now keep in mind you have to be very cautious about this though, because even though he got it through VAWA, this could still raise red flags regarding the past marriage. So depending on how soon he has married and he's getting ready to now file for you, because those things are always on their radar for fraud. So you have to be careful. So file for the new spouse, but how long after the divorce did he end up getting remarried and file those papers? That can, if it's too soon, so I would say within the last 5 years, then it's going to raise questions about fraud and it will open up a can of worms for them. Because even though, keep in mind that they still do investigate whether a marriage is bona fide. And if they see any signs of fraud, they can then not only look into the current marriage before them, but look at the previous marriage, even though, yes, it was VAWA. Hi there, if you have a J1 visa for the cultural exchange program, are you able to work outside of the employer that is on the DS? No. So with the J1 visa, it's specific to the employer. And if you are not allowed to work outside of the conditions of the J1 visa. I have a friend that was deported from USA for overstaying, but he's back in the US. What can be done? So that is a very, very complicated case because one thing that can happen is that the friend might be permanently barred. The friend might be permanently barred because when they left, when they got deported, if they overstayed for more than a year, or if they returned to the US after deportation without applying for a waiver and they came in without inspection, it means that they're facing a permanent bar. And with permanent bars, there's very little that can be done because they have to be outside of the United States for at least some years before applying. So it's a complex case and would have to determine maybe what are the past experiences of this individual that they may qualify for other types of relief. For example, the T status does forgive a number of issues related to bars being inadmissible. And so that may be, if as long as they qualify for the T, then that may be an avenue. But not everyone is going to qualify for the T status, which is for victims of trafficking. So, for example, were they lured to come back into the US after being deported to come work, or were they lured into the country by an abuser? Another thing here that I have to mention is this is where VAWA is beneficial. And listen to this because it is gold here. If you are, if you could potentially be subjected to the permanent ban, but you were deported, then maybe based on your re-entering the country was or related to the mistreatment or abuse that you are experiencing, then you could get that forgiven through a waiver. So this is one of the situations where you could actually a waiver for no hope of qualifying for in the past. So keep that in mind. So the T and VAWA could potentially be relief if they qualify that way. And that's where the consultation is very important because the conditions under which you're going to qualify is going to be very specific. Hi there, Jason. It's nice to see you. Can a man who got his green card, I think I answered this one already. Can you apply for VAWA 2 years after divorce? Unfortunately not. They're pretty strict on that one. He was divorced for over 5 years. So great. Just give us a call, schedule an appointment. Let's talk more though, because that is a situation you want to be sure about. Now, if you want to get in touch with me, go to the link in the profile. You'll see the website. You'll see a button to schedule your own appointment. Go ahead, schedule now because my schedule is filling up and I want to make sure that I can help you. And I did an interview April 11th. Since that, we have not heard from them. So they may be looking into your matter. And, my question to you would be, how did the interview go? Usually, if it's taking this long to hear something from them, there are some questions that they may have, or there are additional issues that need to be resolved. So I have a CO9 EOD and applied for VAWA when my spouse got abusive and asked for new EAD, filed December. How long before it comes? So it could be anywhere from 6 months to 12 months. I'm filing a T status. Can my husband and son join me in the US since I can't return to my country until after 4 years? So, yes, absolutely. Applying for the T status, you can carry your spouse and your son, as long as your son is under 21 and unmarried. This is where it's very important to get representation. Because keep in mind that T status is not just about filling out forms, it is real legal work that has to be done to make a case for you. Hi, Dane. I am looking forward to assisting you in the future. My friend was on J1 and he applied for asylum. He wanted to know if he could continue working since his case is in progress. So, technically, you're not supposed to be working without a permit. If your J1 is still valid, applying for an asylum doesn't invalidate it. Um, so, it just depends on where he's on his status. But they don't usually hold working without a permit against approving an asylum application. All right. So that's it for me today. I will be back tomorrow. So go ahead and join me tomorrow where we can talk more and I can answer some more questions. I see here. So I filed VAWA in February. However, I had a prior green card application that was denied. Um, I give my prima facie, and now it says that my previous fingerprint was updated. What's next? So I think you got your prima facie. So what's next is probably a decision. And this is where I will say, don't wait for that green card denial because it can add to the complexity of your case too. So for those of you who you're being mistreated and you want a way out, consider VAWA because if you try to stick it out with a spouse and then your green card gets denied, then it adds to the complexity of your case because now guarantee if they weren't convinced your case was your marriage was real, you're gonna also have a challenge going through the VAWA process. Doesn't mean you don't qualify, but it's going to be a lot of hard work to make that case. All right, thanks everyone. Go ahead, schedule your appointment so we can talk. Just go to the link in the profile, go to the link in the description of the video on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You'll see everything you need to get started with me. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.